Welcome. This is Fashion, Art, Media. I'm Lydia Cutler, and today with me is an international photographer who has done so much. He very interesting. Welcome, and hope you enjoyed this interview. Hi, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Lydia. Many thanks for that introduction. I'm Douglas Kerr. I'm a photographer based in Arbroath, which is on the east coast of Scotland. But I travel all around Scotland whenever I can, and to other countries too, whenever there's an opportunity to do so.
Right. How long have you been doing this?
Well, for photography, it's hard to date when I started doing photography, really. Been doing photography for many years. And I suppose really since I was at school and I had an interest, and that interest and the passion has grown over the years. I've tried all sorts of styles of photography, from portraits, weddings, family shoots, and some commercial work. And I've done a lot of landscapes because I love to travel around Scotland. And but that's probably how the name that I sometimes use, or the brand of Scotography, came about, because
Right.
it relates to Scottish photography of all
Mhm.
sorts. However, although I love the Scottish landscapes, I've always thought that having people in the lovely scenes would just add a bit of a sparkle to my photography. And it was probably around about the year 2000 when I started to take more portraits of people in Scottish locations.
Uh-huh.
And that interest grew to such occasions as being a backdrop for fashion shoots. And
Mhm.
more than that, when I was able to travel, I would use holidays as an excuse to arrange photo shoots and
Mhm.
explore other locations, and often shooting with local models in the area. And so I suppose it's from that the greater photography with fashion as being one of the aspects, that's how that has grown.
Right. Interesting. I've actually seen your work, and I know that your background is teaching. So, did you stop teaching so that you can do photography?
Well, that's true. I must admit, I've never had a full-time teaching job, although I did go through the
Right.
whole teaching course. But the idea of teaching, I like to help others, or maybe train, help and guide some other photographers. And I've done that, some kind of almost like a mentoring process. And I've tried once or twice to do some little courses or tutorials for photographers as well. Uh, and I suppose, well, it's always just trying to be helpful, whether it's photography or in other areas as well, if I can be of some help.
Right. I know that you also travel to other countries to do fashion photography, especially. Is it different being in those countries as compared to the UK, or is fashion photography really the same all world over?
Um, well, the I suppose in other countries, I think now about this one. Each fashion show that you go to is really quite different, and it has its own
Exactly.
challenges. The biggest difference when traveling to other countries, I think you've got to think ahead and plan carefully what equipment that, for example, that you're going to take with you and what you're able to carry. Um, because you're going to meet lots of challenges, but you're going to be limited with what you can do. I remember one example. I was doing a shoot in Portugal.
Mhm.
I found that when I arrived there, when I unpacked my case, I'd forgotten to pack some particular piece of equipment, an adapter,
Oh. Mhm.
fasten a flash gun onto a portable stand. And I remember driving around several photographic shops in the area to find what I had, and no one had what I needed.
Mhm.
So what I had to do in the end was just get a roll of gaffer tape, and
Mhm.
that worked as a temporary measure to bind my flash gun onto the stand for the shoot the next day. That might
Mhm.
not be the kind of answer you'd expect, but I think some of the qualities that you need overseas or for international work, you've got to be resourceful,
Right.
and patient, and particularly when you're dealing with people, very diplomatic.
Mhm. I know you're very diplomatic, and actually, I've never told you this. I respect you so much. Your work speaks for itself, and the fact that you are very, very humble and respect everybody, no matter who they are, young or, that's such a great quality about you, Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, thank you.
I see awards at just behind you. Can you tell us a bit about those, please?
Right. Well, I suppose I've had various awards, and I think that what you can see here are some of the trophies from
Right.
that I have won, and that's
Uh-huh.
been for both fashion and for travel photography. So it's been really good
Right.
to get that. It's also been a thrill to have some photos published in magazines,
Oh.
and maybe some few front covers. Here's one magazine,
Mhm.
for example. Some of the photographs you might recognize one of the models there on the
I
Avenue
should think
Fashion Week.
so, yes.
And it's always good to do that.
Mhm.
Even getting maybe some front covers as well are always useful.
Oh,
One
wow, that's
the
amazing.
models who has actually been at the
Mhm.
fashion show.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes, as well as in just publishing photographs, they maybe
Uh-huh.
help to accompany, illustrate some articles. There's been an
Right.
article, as I'm sure, one of on Dooku Creations,
Wow.
and some of the photographs that I helped take to accompany
Uh-huh.
the story. So
Mhm.
they stand together with an actual story, and I think you've had Susan on one of your programs as well, so you can.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And so it's always good to not just to have these tangible awards here, but also to have things printed.
Exactly.
That's really something quite good. I think, in fact, although these are good rewards,
Uh-huh.
when you've taken photos, one of the best rewards is, in fact, once you've taken photos of people, perhaps even
Mhm.
some new models as they're starting
Mhm.
out in the industry,
Mhm.
and then later when they've maybe made some kind of success or in their
Uh-huh.
life or their career, and they come back to you
Uh-huh.
acknowledging the past photo shoots, and they ask you to shoot with them again.
Oh, that's
That's
amazing. Yeah.
thrill, and you really feel an appreciation of the work that you have done to help them on their ways, uh,
Oh,
in whatever sphere they have gone.
right. That's great. So, with what you just said, if there's any young people or even adults wanting to do fashion photography, do you have any word of advice for them?
Advice, well, I'd say for if it's for photographers that
Mhm.
take photography of all sorts to become confident with the equipment and that you're using, and then train your eye to look for detail, for
Mhm.
shape and movement. And then I think it's not so much the technical bit, but to nourish your heart with a passion for people.
Right.
And if you can be patient with
Mhm.
people and encourage them for
Mhm.
without being demanding of them, then you'll
Right.
get the best back in return. When a
Right.
team like that works together, then the results show for themselves.
Mhm. So I guess this advice also goes to other photographers, especially photographers in colleges right now. What you said
Absolutely.
can actually will help even those starting or those thinking to start.
Yes,
That's
I dare say that in colleges you'll get a lot of theory and then some practical training as well, and these are very important. But one of the things that's very often is forgotten is how to relate to people, because you're dealing with
exactly.
people, and that's very important. As I say, if you deal with them correctly, then you'll work together to get to achieve the best result.
Oh, exactly. I actually agree totally with what you're saying. And again, as I said before, you're very humble. Uh, we really appreciate, especially in Aberdeen Fashion Week, when we have you there, because we know that your work is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks for that. So to go on, with the lockdown, how has it impacted your travel photography or just even any photography?
Well, I haven't really been able to get out much, certainly not abroad at this time. Um, Sometimes it's just been traveling maybe locally and
Right,
doing a bit more of landscape work.
right.
Sometimes there's an opportunity to shoot with another model. There certainly haven't been any
Mhm,
fashion shows or any big events.
mhm,
But on a one-to-one basis, sometimes the restrictions do allow to get out, and that's been fun. And
mhm,
I think also looking back at previous work, and I certainly I've got quite a lot of an archive of lots of photographs, photo shoots that I've done, and I've maybe practiced doing some editing,
mhm.
or maybe in putting little video clips together with from previous photos. So there's always something that you can do. Don't just think you're locked down and you can't do anything. Think creatively of what you can do with the resources that you have. I suppose that's one of the things I said earlier about being resourceful for whatever situation you're in. And
Exactly.
I think you have to try and be creative. Don't try and go inward and say, "Oh, I can't do that." Just think, "Well, what can I do?" and start thinking outside the box or outside the camera. Particularly if you're a photographer, there are lots of things. Even if you are in just stuck at home, get your camera
Right.
out and take things around the house and
Mhm.
practice doing different things. You'll be surprised at what ideas you can come up with.
Right. Thank you. So you said you do wedding photography and all sorts, really. But if people wanted to reach you and use your services, where can they find you? How can they find you?
Well, I don't do too many weddings, I must admit, but
Right.
certainly, portraits or whether it's fashion things. Um, I'm on Facebook, or I'm on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and have websites. So if you wanted to just do a search for Douglas Kerr or Scotography, um, I'm sure you'll find me. I'll be happy to answer any questions or chat about things that I can help with.
That's amazing. So hopefully you will give me some links to add to your video so that whoever is going to watch can get to talk to you, especially young people, anyone wanting to go into photography might want to talk to you because you have vast experience.
Yes,
Um,
certainly. I'll give you the links that you can put up as well. And I'll be glad to hear from anybody.
oh, thank you. So do you have any final words that you might want to add?
Um, well, I think one of the ideas was, what's the good and bad about doing the photography? Um, Undoubtedly, it's good to meet and work with lots of creative people,
Right.
and you get an opportunity to produce images that people love to see and to remember. One of the cons about doing this kind of photography, it can be long and hard work, and it's not
Right.
always as glamorous as the final pictures might seem to suggest. But that can be a good thing as well, because
Exactly.
although you don't always get credit for the work that you're doing, you get an inner satisfaction that you've made someone else look good, and
Exactly.
then you know yourself that you've done a good job.
So it's just about what you said. I know that you had just a bit, just a few minutes for me, but I just want to ask: do you do a lot of editing? Sorry, it's the last question. Do you do a lot of editing when you do these photos, or is it just take photos and give them to to the models or to the world?
I do quite a bit of editing,
Right,
but not to the extent of changing body shapes or anything like that.
right,
I'll maybe just take out imperfections, and adjust exposure to be correct exposures and things like this, and color balance. I like things to be as natural as possible,
Right.
but it is using some editing is part of the process. It always has been, even before digital film photography was done on film. That had to be processed. So some people think, oh no, you shouldn't use Photoshop, but it's part of the process. At the end of the day, people want to look good and
That's right.
without being distorted. And that's really what I try to achieve.
Well, thank you so much. This has been very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully you can give us some more time next time so that we can also talk a bit more about this, because I'm sure many of our viewers will be interested to learn more and know more with your experience. I really look forward to having you back another time.
Certainly, Lydia. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.